Hey guys, Bowie here, and this is things I learned with XIAO8's PUDGE in 7.0.10. PUDGE received a shit ton of nerfs recently, and I'm here to show you how XIAO8 is dealing with them. The biggest of the nerfs was Rot being reduced from 30% slow at level 1 to 17. That's a lot, and it means that it's harder for PUDGE to get kills at level 1, because if he attacks while using Rot, then there's a big chance that the enemy will escape the Rot AoE. Well, just build our Pvgna then. With roaming being more about securing lanes than actually walking around the map, and with bounties giving no experience, wind laser boots are not that necessary at level 1 against most heroes. Pay attention to how XIAO8 plays here. You really need level 2 to start getting kills unless the enemy has very weak lanes, so he plays a normal support per se. He tries to zone Omni even though it's kinda hard, and he uses his level 2 to surprise him. He felt like that deny would actually give him enough experience. He fails, but keep watching. He keeps trying to trade with Omni here, and what he wants is actually to be purificated. That will kill that passkey creep, and that will give them a timing window to actually kill Omni Knight. Omni is full HP here, which means that he has less effective HP since he just used purification for pretty much nothing. Knowing that Terrorblade has Metamorphosis, they get the kill thanks to Rot and the Orb of Venom damage. That's boots and magic sticks straight away, and also double bounties. Oh wait, there's a Bane here. He ends up dying, but he gives his carry another kill, and he also snatched the bounty room, so I feel like he's fine. A fight starts while he notice how he TPs behind the trees, so it's harder for Dire to actually know that he's there, and while they go for a dive, he gets an easy catch. But let's watch that clip and see how he hooks Bane. If you rewind, while he TPs, he pretty much doesn't move his mouse. After getting that kill, what's the only path that Bane can take? It's clearly to the right. So if the creep's blocking him there, it's pretty easy to predict exactly how to get the hook. He also gets one CS and even help his OD to get that other one since he knows he deals very little damage. When nighttime comes, he snatches a double damage, and pay attention how he plays. He knows it's room time, so he was in a way expecting Bane to go check it out. He hides in a way where Bane will not know about PUDGE and he can initiate with Rot and Orb of Venom and maybe get the kill. But Bane stays mid helping Visage. I'm a big fan of how XIAO8 plays this. The two big mistakes I can see here would be 1, standing still and try to get the hook, and 2, try to kill Bane. Visage with his Q is super slippery, and usually the supports will try to stay and help the core anyways. So by getting closer to help slow Visage and get more Shadow Wave damage, they end up getting 2 kills. Nicely done. Since he's a measly support and no other cores want to try, he actually walks back to base instead of using it solo. And keep watching. Dire goes on Terrorblade, but the Director is ready to help. He TPs in the fog, and again we see him prepping the hook angle before getting to the lane. Omni's path was very predictable, but there's no kill to be had there. Or is it? A great technique to land your hooks is abusing choke points, and that's what we'll see here. He has a ward that he plants in the lane, and by standing outside of Dire vision behind that tree, he hooks Bane in a way that it's almost impossible to sidestep because of the surrounding trees of that area. Omni has to commit a mango to save Bane, and by using the vision superiority that his ward gives him, he ultimately seppukus himself while giving his Dazzle a kill. Just beautiful. After that, he decides to abuse the setup that we mentioned. OD and PUDGE is quite a nice combination to have. He stands outside of vision, supposedly since it's nighttime, and gets a great hook. Bane actually does the right thing and suicides, but Visage ends up misplaying. He checks his OD inventory and knows that he can keep up since Grave 2 was already committed. He stands outside of tower aggro range, and that's killing spree for him. And he keeps playing around the mid lane for quite a bit. If you think about it, Omni is insanely hard to kill as levels go by, and Gyro, without Dismember, actually wants to be hooked because then he deals a lot of damage to PUDGE. Mid has also a very reliable setup, and we see that working out nicely even though he dies at the end. Now this is another beautiful showing, not necessarily because of what happens, but because of XIAO8's decision making. He's very close to level 6, so I feel like he wanted Terra to attack the crypts so he could get this member before going in. When Visage ends up committing Grave Chill, which is one of the only escapes he has besides the birds, he tries one hook, but fails, but it was quite nice regardless. As he rotates towards his mid, his OD gets engaged and pay attention to what unfolds. First of all, instead of showing to hook, he does everything outside of vision, so it's harder for Dire to react. If we see how his mouse hovers seconds before the hook, you can see the same pattern. He is predicting how Gyro is moving and waiting for OD to start walking forward. As that starts, he stops cancelling the hook and gets a beautiful one. That is pretty standard, but notice how his mouse hovers over the Gyro to preemptively cast this member, since that hero is quite fast naturally, which in a lot of cases can result in him running away. Jakiro misplays heavily there, and with the urn as well as Rot, they secure one, but the fight keeps growing and it's important to watch how he plays it. Omni has Repel, so he doesn't use Rot, and as he chases, he starts to know that he's in the front lines, and that's never good as a PUDGE. You don't want to be in the spotlight, because then hooks are easier to predict for the enemy team. And in a couple of seconds, we see another great hook, and it all boils down to understanding the basic emotions and reactions everyone has in a game. This is not a random Bane passing by, this is a Bane reacting to his core being stunned. What he wants to do is nightmare the people attacking his core, so even though this is a low ground hook, he can commit it just because of how Bane is moving. You can see that Bane even reacts to the hook, but XIAO8 was just smarter. If he hesitated on that hook, which is very low percentage by default, he wouldn't get it. The fight keeps on going, and since he can use his magic stick to full efficiency here, he pops it so that he can start farming more and more charges. He was pretty close to getting his cooldowns again, and he gets another easy one. This time because Dire has to retreat through that ramp. Beautiful PUDGE play. Since he's playing so well, there has to be some sort of comic relief, and there you go. He was trying to hunt that beautiful Helm of the Dominator creep, and his Dazzle even bad manners him after he dies. With the recently placed ward, PUDGE gets a nice hook, and yeah, that's nice, but the important part starts after the cancel and repel being committed. As a PUDGE, you never want to be in crowded spaces or at the core of the fight, since it's very hard to land your hook in those situations. So pay attention how he goes around, even though in theory, he would be able to chase Visage and use Rot to slow after repel ended. Thanks to that, he lands a beautiful hook after the Impale gets used, and that's a dead Visage. Look at this. First, he marches up the ramp here, and a lot of players in that situation would just maybe ward the high ground. What happens though is that he sees the Dire creeps and thus Dire sees him, and he retreats. A lot of times, especially when a tower just fell down and you're applying pressure, the enemy might expect you to be warding that location. What he does is actually ward, trying to predict someone going there to maybe farm the stack or to de-ward. He doesn't achieve anything at that time, but he will, so stay tuned. But even if he didn't, that's an unlikely ward to get de-warded that also scouts an ancient stack, so they can go and contest if someone goes to farm it. As that happens, he spots Omni Knight in the top lane, and usually if a Dire core hero pushes there, you would expect him to use that route to farm the large camp or just farm other camps. So he hides in that tree where Omni has no vision and calls his allies to help get the kill. And voila, another great one. As that happens, his mid tower is falling, but no one is defending, so look how he TPs in the tier 2. There are Visage birds, so trying for a sneaky TP will most likely fail. While he misses the hook, there is a Nyx scouting the rotation from Dire. So look how he resorts to the outskirts of the fight that didn't even start. He has no vision in the ancient area and he's alone, so he keeps trying to fish for something outside of Dire vision, and eventually his Nyx gets spotted. And another great tip for hook can be seen. Abusing choke points is nice, but animations are also huge, and there's no better example than Jakiro. So as Jakiro is waiting to set up with Ice Path, he has the chance to get a juicy dragon on the tail of his hook, and that's another earned charge for him and the boys. And it doesn't end here, and this one is also pretty simple. He basically predicts the Omni's reactions. In situations like this, it's harder to dismember preemptively since he didn't have vision, and while Omni does pop Repel, that's another pick off at the end. Well, remember that ward he planted beforehand? He was setting up there to try and get a support stacking it or core farming, and guess what? Bane shows up, and while it seems that he had vision, he was just waiting, and thanks to Ancients being immune to fat zombies, his hook goes right through them, guaranteeing that one. He then gets lucky, finds an Invis rune and scouts the area while his team starts roaching. This is important, so pay attention. He sees everyone coming. He already showed that to his team, so the next step is positioning himself in a hidden spot. He chooses the back of the Roshan pit, and what that allows is not only taking Gyro out of it, but taking the hero that wants that Aegis completely out of position. That also lures Omni Knight there, guaranteeing the Visage death, Bane dying, and ultimately Roshan dying. XIAO8 gets just a glimpse of a Jakiro casting Ice Path, and thanks to that insanely slow animation, he's able to get Jakiro even though he gets trapped in the Ice Path. What ensues is Dire tilting more than I ever seen. Omni Knight gives up on healing Jakiro. I guess that Jar wanted to use Flight Cannon in the center of Vision to damage Radiant, but that stack was freaking huge, and thanks to that ward, Radiant can go for him instantly. He denies himself, but that's a dominant Radiant win for sure. Knowing that the entirety of Dire is either that or healing, he also farms the Ancient Prowler with Dismember and leaves with extra 70 gold on his pockets. Well guys, this is it for today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. This is the only way for me to know whether the Things I Learned series is actually what you guys want to see. There is an extended version of this video on Pvgna. It's pretty much about mid and late game PUDGE and how you can actually push side lanes and farm effectively, so check it out. There's also another crispy Roshan fight for you to watch. I mean, Pvgna, after all, sponsored this channel, and those guys are great. They have a huge library of videos that will allow you to grow your knowledge about the game and probably grow your MMR as well. If you want to watch a crispy stream, my stream format is pretty interesting. You can choose which lane and which hero I will play using Twitch chat. I feel like it's pretty fun. The music is nice, and yeah, I guess that's it guys. Thanks for watching, and don't stop playing PUDGE. He's a pretty cool hero, and the Arcana will get released pretty soon, I guess.